Hey, what's up there? This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, I want to go ahead and talk about whether or not I think that the Bitcoin market has bottomed. But before we get to that, we need to talk about what has happened with Bitcoin over the past couple of days. So Bitcoin has been mostly trading sideways over the last 7 days. It's barely even up 1%. And so the first thing we need to talk about when it comes to Bitcoin is what Fed Chair Jerome Powell has been saying when it comes to interest rates, because interest rates are incredibly important to Bitcoin. In fact, if we go ahead and take a look at our long-term Bitcoin chart and we overlay this with the Fed funds, rate, we can see here that generally speaking, Bitcoin tends to trade opposite of the Fed funds rate. We had a huge run up to the about 2017, 2018 or so for the first Bitcoin bull market, and that was at a time where interest rates were low. And then as they raised interest rates in about 2018, 2019, that's kind of where we saw the end of the Bitcoin bull market. Now, back in 2020, we saw the halving and the post-halving rally that happened when the Fed funds rate was low comparatively. That's when Bitcoin went all the way up to about 60,000 or so, and then later went up to about 65K, and then came back down again. Again, this is all time where the Fed funds rate was low. Now we get to a point in about 2022 when the Fed funds rate spiked dramatically here. We have a huge increase in the Fed funds rate, and then as a result, Bitcoin it cratered, going from, again, about 65K all the way down to where it bottomed here about 17K. And during that time, it was pretty much moving sideways, maybe going up just a little bit as the Fed funds rate increased. And then finally, we get to the point where the Fed funds rate held steady and stopped increasing. And it's no surprise there that we actually saw a large move up in the Bitcoin price after that fact. So this is really important to understand the interaction between the two of them, because the Fed Chair Jerome Powell recently said in a hearing that it's very likely that they're going to wind up cutting at some point this year. I do believe that's going to be the case, probably 1 or 2 cuts this year, very likely. And if that's the case, Bitcoin stands to benefit greatly from the interest rate cuts. When they start cutting these rates, hopefully later this year, Bitcoin is going to move up higher based on that fact alone. And I do think that is the most likely near-term catalyst that we see for the Bitcoin price. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about what Bitcoin has been doing from a TA perspective over the past day. So we've seen here that this 200-day moving average, this blue line right here, this has been the level that Bitcoin has really struggled to overcome. And this 200-day moving average is incredibly important because many traders are going to look at this level and they're going to say, okay, well, unless Bitcoin can push above this level, then it's going to continue to fall lower and lower and lower, because this is very clear support and resistance for Bitcoin. Right now, it is very clear resistance. We just had a slight move above that, but we've seen multiple days in which Bitcoin's tried to move above this level and got rejected multiple times, and especially rejected right above here at the 60K resistance line. And I'm looking for Bitcoin to break out right now, because we've seen a very small breakout here, but we've seen numerous rejections. We need to see Bitcoin push above that 58K level and then overtake the 60K resistance, okay? This level right here is absolutely key. This 60K resistance point. This is going to be the determining factor in which Bitcoin is done falling and it reverses and moves higher, or if it continues the short-term trend of moving lower and lower and lower. So watch the 60K region. If Bitcoin can actually push above that, I think that we're in the clear. I think that after that point, that'll show that that Bitcoin is basically bottomed, and then from there, we're going to wind up seeing some large gains, especially as it pushes past the 63K resistance point and tries to challenge the 72K resistance that we made back in May. So this level is clear here. It's absolutely vital that Bitcoin hold this level. And so I do think right now that Bitcoin is at a really good spot, okay? It can hold this sideways consolidation before it moves higher. I do think that Bitcoin has seen a large amount of sellers, and eventually these sellers are going to get exhausted, and you're going to see longs move in, and those longs are eventually going to outnumber the shorts. So that's, I think, in the short term, we're going to wind up seeing some better price action. In the medium term, we might see some more chop, but definitely in the long term, Bitcoin is going to benefit from lower interest rates and an economy that's still pretty good for the most part. So the other thing I want to talk about is the Bitcoin ETFs. And this is another reason why I think I'm bullish on the Bitcoin price. We've started to see recovery in the Bitcoin spot ETFs. We had total inflows on the 12th of July of over 300 million. Now, this is actually a pretty large amount spot inflows here to Bitcoin. And if you take a look at all the past couple of days, you can see here that it's been green ever since about the 4th of July or so. We've seen multiple days up for the Bitcoin spot ETFs. We've seen net inflows. We've seen more money going towards Bitcoin as an asset in order for people to balance out their portfolios. And now we're starting to see some more buyers step in here. And I think that the worst is basically behind us when it comes to the Bitcoin spot market, but it may be a little too early to say that for sure. I'm cautiously optimistic. Now, I also want to go ahead and take a look at the liquidation heat maps, because this level is incredibly important for us to talk about these heat maps. And we've seen a large amount of long liquidity sitting here at about 56K. So this 56K region is again another vital region for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes below 56K, then we are going to have a revisit potentially down to 54 again, and then potentially into the 50s. Now, on the other side, there is also a massive, massive amount of short liquidity sitting here at 59,300. So if Bitcoin can actually hold that 58K region and then push above a little bit higher, we can see these shorts get liquidated, and Bitcoin can push above 60K. I think that that's actually very possible that we see that. There's also some huge buying going on from Whale. So our favorite Whale wallet, number 10 now, has actually put up a massive number of Bitcoin. They've added about 2,700 Bitcoin since the start of July. You can see here that they've had just huge additions. I mean, basically 100 Bitcoin multiple times a day, and over the span of about 2 weeks, they've added 2,700 Bitcoin to their wallet. And this whale here, the buying is at levels that I haven't seen before. I've never seen a whale add 2,700 Bitcoin in about 2 weeks. That's kind of crazy. And so there's definitely reading between the lines and reading the tea leaves here for a second, there is some strong conviction, especially with these whales, that they're buying under 60K, and buying under 60K is actually going to be very profitable for them. And I do believe that's going to wind up being the case for myself as well, because I've actually been buying as well, both regular Bitcoin and the spot ETF IBIT. I've been buying both of those under 60K, and I do plan to continue to buy both of those for the near term, especially as long as Bitcoin is under 60K. Now, we're also going to talk about the Fear and Greed Index as well. So Fear and Greed Index is sitting at about 40. Okay, so this isn't near extreme fear, but it's pretty far away from greed. This is something that's actually been improving over the last couple of days. We've seen it bottom here at about 30, and now it's at about 40 or so. And I think it's going to wind up actually getting a little bit better. But if it moves out of this fear region, I'm definitely not as interested in buying, especially during greed and extreme greed, because I like to buy at a discount. Now, I also want to talk about miners. So the miners reserve has the situation with miners has actually been getting better. Miners reserve, or the number of coins in miners' wallets, have started to tick up again. We've seen here the start of July, a huge decrease in the number of coins in miners' wallets. Now we're starting to see it come back up again, and miners aren't selling as heavily as they were towards the end of June. So I think that's also a good sign. Now, finally, I want to talk about the Bitcoin options. So Bitcoin options, Again, we have a large amount of Bitcoin options set to expire on the 26th of July. Now you're talking about a little over 3 billion or so of Bitcoin options. And the max pain price here is about 61K. So I do believe, again, that we can actually hit 61K by the end of the month. I think that's very possible. And if that 61K max pain price is hit, then I think that we'll see a large number of shorts get liquidated, and then we'll see a nice little short squeeze for the Bitcoin price. So overall, I'm actually pretty cautiously optimistic that we're starting to find a bit of a base here between about 56 and about 60 or so. And I think that even if Bitcoin dips below and doesn't hold this support level here at 57, even if it doesn't hold that level, I am still going to be buying, especially down here at about 50, 51. It is very possible that we see a very quick a dip, like a flash crash back down to 50K or in that region. But then I think if that happens, we're going to bounce back up again, and then that's going to be the ultimate end of the short-term selling, and then we'll move up a bit higher. But that's just a possibility. Now, either way, again, I'm a long-term holder of Bitcoin. I buy and I hold. I'm not a trader, so the long term for Bitcoin still looks incredibly bright. Anyways, let me know what you guys are doing. Leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.